So, to review, we are taking our assignment 5 and we are adding to it for assignment 6 type design and layout onto a poster format. So where our spot illustration could work any size, any background, it's a spot illustration, free floating. For poster design, it needs to work within a 16 by 20 image size at 300 pixels per inch, or 350 if you're ambitious, right? And you think your computer can handle it, right? So the next step is you drag and drop your spot illustration on as a smart object. I'm going to go ahead and put those into, because I have one that has my CMYK color separation and I have one that doesn't, right? And I like both of them. So I'm just going to put them both into a folder. And I'm going to lock that. And layout is how you arrange the elements to be visually interesting. So I chose a horizontal format that's 20 inches wide, 16 inches tall, instead of a vertical format, which would be 16 inches wide, 20 inches tall. And I'm designing the type that I want to go into it. And the easiest way to design that type is what's called text blocking. And this is a little deceptive. What text blocking actually is this. You don't start by writing your actual letters. You start by figuring out what's the shape I want these letters to fill. It's just mine was pretty specific because I wanted it to look like a roller coaster, like all the ups and downs, because that's how elections can feel. But that's what text blocking is. So if I know I want the text not my fault, I can design it this way. I could design it this way, like not there, my there. This wouldn't be a great way to do it, but I could do not my fault, right? And then the I would go in this box, and then the D would go in this box. So that's a text blocking sketch. The only thing it needs is to be divided up. So I'll do this in orange or in yellow. So how do I divide and make sure the text would fit in here? I get a sense of it by splitting up these boxes into those shapes. So not my, and you see how my is going to be really emphasized here because of its scale and central placement. And I'll make the M really strong, but that gives me less room for the Y. And then fault, the F is going to be really big. I was using a regular brush for this. And it could be fun to make my A a little asymmetrical. And my U really flat. The L is going to be challenging with this space, but maybe I can let it go up like this. And then the T, be really strong. Capitals are helpful because they already kind of automatically space themselves. But you can see how I can make it like not my fault. And maybe I want to underline not. And then I say I, as if to say because I voted. And then I'm just going to match the letter design I had before. So I actually think that's pretty engaging. And so I can decide now, which do I like better? This or this? What do you guys think? Yeah, I kind of like that one too. So, demonstration in real time, how it can help to do multiple text blocking sketches and kind of arrange the desires. But it starts best with just the blocks and then filling in the blocks, especially if you're designing your own type. So So if this is my text blocking solution, now what? Well, I save it just as a JPEG. In fact, I'm going to save my memory in Canvas a little bit by just doing a targeted screen grab. Command-Shift-4. And when I do the screen grab, I'm actually going to grab a little bit of the black background too, so I can show in the assignment where the edge of my 16 by 20 poster is, where my border is. I'm going to erase this one and put in this new one. So take the time to get it right. This has nothing to do with color. It has everything to do with designing the space, the arrangement of elements. What in the heck? That screenshot should be really easy to submit because they're not very big. They're just PNG files. There we go. And just like my inspiration here, you just want it to be as engaging as possible, how you use that type. Now, my poster is going to be mostly about type. And then the spot illustration is just kind of a very interesting O, right? But this kind of gets to the emotion of it. So I like that feeling of the space better. So it can be fun to try it a few different ways. Okay, now I'm going to take that and I'm going to lock my blocking sketches, blocking sketch layers, the ones I use and the ones I don't use. And now I am not going to put a new layer. Instead, I'm going to use the type tool for the first time. And I'm going to set my defaults to be black on white and use the T. So the type tool is a really basic tool. For those of you who are used to Canva or Google Slides or PowerPoint, you know how to add text boxes to images. And it's the same thing in Photoshop. If anything, it's a little bit less, or Photopea, it's a little less intuitive because it relies on your last settings. So I just did it, but I can barely see it. So there is text somewhere, but it's so small I can't even see it. So I have to set my settings. So if I do T, you're going to see your settings across the top. The first thing you want to change is your size. Make it nice and big. And then you can change your typeface. I want something really bold, right? This is going to be kind of like a Gothic typeface. There's a lot of good typefaces in Photopea for you to use. There are some really interesting custom ones that are a little bit more interesting than your standard. And of them, these are just going to get me close to what I want, right? I'm not looking for the perfect thing. For holy is interesting. And they're always adding more as designers donate them. And you want to make sure, first and foremost, they're very readable. So personality is great. You want to complement the personality of your spot illustration, but it also needs to be incredibly readable. Jungle fever. Some of them are only capitals. Some of them are lowercase and uppercase. Actually, I like the look of luckiest guy, so I'm going to choose that one. All right, now I'm going to press and start typing in OT. And that's 150 pixels, and that's still tiny. So what I can do is on that text layer, I can now do Option Command T to get a transform box. Come Come on. And then I can hopefully transform it. There we go. Now this is with all just the default type design, but with Option Command T, I can rotate it, stretch it. I'm holding down Shift, or I'm holding down Option so that it stretches from the middle. Option and Command, and then when I hit Return, it will solidify it. But before I'm done with that, I can even try. So that size is 1,020 pixels. This one, maybe I only want to be 1,000 pixels, right? And I can adjust it. I can also adjust what's called the kerning, the space between the letters, by adding a space in between, and then selecting that space and deciding how many pixels it should take up. So I'm just going to do like a little extra kerning, so 32 in between. Does that make sense? What I can't do is individually rotate the letters because it's all on one text box. But what I can also do is Option Command T, right click, I can skew it. I can't do all the warping and things, but I can do a little bit of these effects, right? So skewing is this kind of tilting on an axis, both that way and this way. Let's skew it again. And that's how you italicize things. So let me see, does that work for my character? Yeah, I think that works. Now, how do I do the underline underneath it? Well, I need to tilt it a little bit more, because my text blocking is pretty precise. And then I'm going to use the lasso tool. I'm not actually quite sure. Let me do it this way. Let me duplicate it. Yeah, I can use the rectangle tool, but I'm going to try to give it some personality right away using the vector typefaces. So I'm going to duplicate the knot. And this time, I'm going to double click on the window and I'm just going to make it a capital I, which I think it did. Then I'm going to move that down, right? And then I'm going to free transform it and stretch it. I think I want it to be thicker on that end. And then hold down Shift and distort it, right? And I can do things like skew it, all while keeping it still a type tool. What's the advantage of keeping it with the T? Well, that means I can always change the typeface if I want to try it with a different typeface. Or if I make a spelling problem, I can correct it. Or if I want to add space between the letters, I can do that. All like it's a word processor rather than just pixels. At any time, I can just right-click it and rasterize it, but I want to keep it as a typeface for as long as I can, because that will always be perfectly clean, because type design is vector design. So I got not. And I'm not totally sold on this. I'm thinking maybe I can break this up a little bit, but I can keep playing with it. Now I'm going to duplicate not again. It will keep all of my settings and move it. But this time, I'm going to type my, right? And this time, I'm going to select the M, and I'm going to make it 2200 pixels. That's too big. Let's try 2000. Let's try, whoops,